Many of those who approached Venerable Lanteri seeking spiritual direction would find themselves very gently and warmly from the outset invited to pray, to a faithful daily life of prayer. And so he would invite them to be present at Mass as often as they could do it, compatibly with their different vocations, to receive communion as frequently as they could, to a regular practice of the sacrament of confession. He would invite them to dedicate time daily to spiritual reading, to make an examination of conscience. I'm thinking as I say this of one letter to a woman who was the mother of 6 children, and the spiritual program that he traces for her. And he says to her, try if you can to dedicate 15 minutes a day to meditation, if you can do it. Try if you can in the course of the day to dedicate 15 minutes to spiritual reading. And then try if you can in the course of the day to make an examination of conscience, if only even while your hands are working but your mind is free. Now let's just think of a layman or a laywoman in the midst of family life and daily activity trying to live that spiritual program. And you can see the blessing that will come into it, obviously together with a faithful life of the sacraments. As I've mentioned earlier, very key and very much at the heart of his entire spiritual program was never to give in to discouragement. Lanteri will say over and over again in his letters that the real enemy in the spiritual life is discouragement, and to never give in to that. He will urge repeatedly in his letters of spiritual direction that those he is directing have a true understanding of God. He says too often we tend to think of God as, although we might not say this, but somewhere in our hearts is the sense that God is really something like us. That is, when a person who just keeps offending us in a certain way, and even the person may apologize and say that he or she wants to change, but just keeps falling again into the same error, sooner or later something in us grows tired, and it gets harder for us to forgive, and we may want to create a certain distance, and something in us has a sense that God is like this with us when we repeatedly fall into the same failings and faults. And he says, no, it's very important that we never judge God as being like us, but God as he truly is. The Father, now Father for Venerable Lanteri is a very warm and rich term. He was very blessed, as we said earlier, to have a wonderful Catholic father with whom he was very close and who essentially raised him, and also a wonderful spiritual father in Father Diesbach. Fatherhood for Venerable Lanteri is a beautiful term, which means guidance and love and closeness and support, and also endless readiness to forgive. He would often quote from the first verse of the first chapter of the Book of Wisdom in the Old Testament, think of God in a spirit of wisdom, quoting it in the Latin that was used in those days, sentite te Deo in bonitate, think of God in a spirit of goodness. He will also urge those whom he guides spiritually to dedicate their lives to promoting the glory of God. There's that Ignatian term, which is, the glory of God simply means this, or let's use Ignatius' phrase, the greater glory of God means that which will more cause God to be known and loved in human hearts in this world and unto eternity. So if I am living the married vocation, for example, as I live my life with my spouse and my children and all the different relationships that are a part of married life, I am seeking to be one whose presence promotes God's glory in the world, that causes God to be known and loved by the human hearts whom God has placed in my life. So to be actively in service of God, actively in service of the church, to be apostles, if we can use that word.